Hello, it's Ashley Koch from BioLounge, and I'm excited to take you through this version of our Clinical Insider. We're talking about digestive health. Specifically, my client was 24 years old and they were living in New York City and came in reporting having chronic constipation for a long time and having persistent uncomfortable bloating. The bloating was in the lower half of her stomach, and it had been for the last 2 years. She was diagnosed with IBS-C by her gastrointestinal doctor. And they did a workup, and the solution was to give her Linzest, which is a medication that would help her have bowel movements every day. This medication was helpful because it did give her bowel movements, but unfortunately, instead, she ended up with chronic diarrhea from the medication. She also worked with a naturopath who did diagnose her with SIBO, and she was prescribed treatments for SIBO. She also did the low FODMAP diet for 2 to 3 months, and she reported feeling better for a period of time and then started feeling worse, and the bloating and the constipation returned. From there, she was someone who enjoyed being active, but she was so uncomfortable with the bloating that she could no longer run or exercise because it was so painful. She reported having a 5-day cycle, so she would bleed for 5 days. She had a lot of PMS symptoms and irritability. As we went back in her history to try to understand her constipation, I asked her if she had any triggering events, and she did identify the death of her father several years earlier as the start of her digestive symptoms, which makes sense as we know we have a nervous system in the digestive tract, so any kind of major stressful event could impact the digestive tract. But as she started going back in her history, she did say that her mother told her she was constipated for a long period of time. When she started talking through her teen years, she started remembering she did have periods of constipation as well as lots of acne. And then she started her period and she ended up on birth control because the acne continued, the constipation continued. So, some signs of potential detox issues. If you're not having bowel movements every day, you're not going to properly detox. And then you're going to keep reabsorbing those toxins. So, you're going to see things like skin manifestations like acne. So, it wasn't surprising to go back in her history and see that. As we went back in her history, she also identified a trip she had taken to Panama in her early teen years where everybody came home with diarrhea. So there was the potential that there was an infection exposure around that time that was contributing to the constipation. As we went back in her lab history, in her labs that she had taken 2 years prior, I noticed that her RDW was high, which can indicate that someone needs iron. Her RBC was low, her hemoglobin was low, her hematocrit was low. So I'm thinking about iron and what's going on there. And then her ferritin was also low at 10. And we like to see ferritin at a 70. So that's a measure of our iron storage. We want to make sure if you're going to have a cycle regularly, you need to have ferritin at a 70 and keep replacing iron because you're going to lose about 20 points on your ferritin every time you have a cycle. And her eosinophils were slightly elevated. Typically, if I see eosinophils above 3, I'm thinking about parasites, and hers were at 3.6. I went through her Genova report and she had done a GIFX, which was helpful, although she hadn't done the parasite microscope part of the GIFX. So it gave me some information, but not all the information. There were 0 signs, according to the Genova report, of infections. There were no parasites reported. She had low short-chain fatty acids. She had a small level of dysbiosis, and it said that she didn't have any markers of inflammation or maldigestion. So that was a starting point to start thinking about our investigation. From there, I ordered labs. I requested that her primary care recheck her ferritin since that ferritin level and those iron levels were 2 years old, and we checked some other markers around iron. We also ordered a para-wellness test, which I love because it uses microscope technology. You're only as good as the eyes behind the microscope. So we got that parasite test, a stool test, and urine test. And then I ordered a vibrant food panel because I really want to repair this digestive tract. And we know that infections, foods, and toxins can be breaking down the digestive tract. And since we know we have to do some repair, I wanted to know which foods are irritating to her digestive tract. The para-wellness report revealed that she had Giardia. We can't be certain how long she had it, but we know Giardia is really pathogenic. If you go back into the literature, Giardia can start out as nausea and diarrhea, but you will see a percentage of the population with persistent Giardia that have constipation. Then we also revealed that she had a high soluble transferrin receptor, which is a sign someone needs iron. Her ferritin was low at 4. Her transferrin was high. So all signs pointing to this body wants more iron. So from there, her vibrant food panel report revealed that she had IgG reactivity to chicken eggs, cow dairy, green pepper, rice, soy, cashews, pistachios, pecans, and macadamia nuts. And so I'm going to take this into account as I created a custom plan. When I first saw her, my first goal was just getting her having bowel movements without medication that led to diarrhea. So I sent her home with magnesium citrate, which I titrate up. You can start at 300 milligrams, but you can take your client all the way up to 900 milligrams, increasing by 1 capsule each night until they're having bowel movements every day. And the citrate helps bring water into the bowels. I also put her on Pamplex digestive enzymes, some fiber to specifically help with that motility, help things move through her body. So I put her on Loosen Up, which is for people who are constipated. And I gave her trace mineral electrolytes and encouraged her to drink lots of water because hydration status can really impact constipation. Before we got the labs back, when she came in, she reported that these supplements were already helping her use Linzess less and have more bowel movements. We then got our labs results back. We created an anti-inflammatory diet based on her lab results. I asked her to go to her primary care and get a treatment for Giardia, since we know pharmaceutical interventions are the best way to deal with Giardia. Not all parasites require medication, but some do. I recommended she visit her primary care and hematology and address her chronically low ferritin, which, yes, Giardia can contribute to low iron. Giardia is going to want to steal the iron as a resource for itself and not allow the body to have it. So I'm going to work on the causes of the low ferritin, but oral iron is going to really struggle to get her back up to a 70 ferritin, especially when she has digestive symptoms and digestive issues. She's not going to be absorbing that iron and able to get where she needs to go. And then we started the repair. So we kill the Giardia, but we started doing repair alongside that. So I used GI Revive. I used BioK probiotics, which are specifically the research shows can be useful for constipation. I incorporated iron-rich foods in her diet, including liver, and helped her focus on getting a variety of plants so that we can really fuel the good bacteria that was still in her digestive tract and support repair. Eventually, after she got her iron infusions, we used iron bisglycinate, 2 capsules every other day to keep her iron levels up. And then I suspect it with Giardia, potentially persistent for a long period of time. Some of it's going to be hiding behind biofilms. So I utilized Biocide in liquid formula to try to break down some of those biofilms and deal with any overgrowth that could be going on. And Biocide and GI Detox was important to have on board when you're killing things, because they're going to grab any toxins that infections are holding on to and pull them out in the bowel movements. She was feeling better in the first 2 months, and then her digestive symptoms started returning. Sometimes Giardia is persistent. Some of our infections are more persistent. They hide behind biofilms. Giardia is known for that. And so I asked her to go back to her primary care and do a retreatment of Giardia. And after that retreatment, she had relief from her digestive symptoms for several months. So we feel like we addressed the Giardia, and we received, we also had her get iron infusions, which were successful at bringing her levels up. At the end of this 90 days, she reported feeling like it was easy to be compliant because she was feeling better and she had full resolution of her bloating. She also was feeling much better. She didn't realize she was low energy, and now her workouts and getting through her day were much easier. She no longer had constipation and she no longer needed medication. And then her lab results revealed her hematologist ordered labs right after her iron infusions. Her ferritin was up at 413, which makes sense. Her RBC was normal. Her hemoglobin and hematocrit looked good. Her eosinophils had now come down to 0.6 instead of 3.6, dealing with that Giardia infection. And her ferritin was high and back because she just had iron infusions, and I imagine it will come down over time. So overall, she was feeling better. We addressed her digestive symptoms, gave her a lot of education and resources as she moves on in life on how to protect her digestive tract, and she's doing really well. If there's a topic that's interesting to you or a type of client that you like to work with and you want to hear more about from us, please send us an email at learn@bioloungepdx.com, and we look forward to seeing you soon.